Here we go. Time to continue. I hope everybody's here. If not, then it's their own fault. Alright. The strange letter that the witch had entrusted to Maria wiped all memories of dinner from our minds. Yeah, I can imagine that. Maria was repeatedly barraged with questions by Aunt Rosa and the other parents. And became increasingly ill-tempered when they refused to believe her. If we kids tried to butt in, they'd probably ignore us. Our parents were all stirred up, firing back and forth about the gold and the distribution of the assets and completely forgetting that we were even there. I'd already guessed they'd been talking like this in the shadows, but I hadn't thought they'd be so blunt. It gave all of us kids a considerable shock. From what we could overhear, all the parents wanted more money as soon as possible. Yeah, I remember that part last time where it would write in all capital letters that they needed money as soon as possible. It was kind of funny. Back and forth about grandfather's inheritance. Oh, wait, gotta close something in the background. Okay. Back and forth about the distribution of the gold, if it was found. About advance payments in cash. It was so despicable I could hardly bear to watch, even though one of them was my father. It looked like Jessica felt the same way. We left our seats without being asked to, and went to hang out somewhere well away from our parents. I get it. Now I totally see why grandfather hates coming down for meals. Yeah. I'm so disillusioned with our parents right now. That and he's batshit insane. All that about money and the inheritance. How can they act like that right out in the open? Well, I'm already completely disillusioned with my old bastard anyway. There's no way I could think any worse of him. That's exactly the same for me. Still, that freaking shocked me. Okay, good to hear that, Beatrice. Shocked me to the core. Jessica looked down at the floor, irritated. She was always talking about how bad her parents were, but maybe she hadn't really felt that way deep inside. The depth of Jessica's shock made that clear. Your mind is being supported by your parents, so you might not understand, but getting money is neither a simple nor a pretty thing. I won't try to force you to understand right now, since you're still kids, but even so, I want you to realize that your parents are just doing the best in their own way. Oh, great. George Aniki's gotten all mature. George Nissan, I know you're working hard as a full-fledged member of society, but does that mean you turn into a shameless, greedy vulture like our parents whenever you start talking about money and assets? If it were only for my own benefit, then no, I wouldn't want to do that. However, when your family and your employees, your subordinates and their families are all counting on you, there are some times when you must fight. I hate that kind of fight. That back and forth about grandfather's inheritance just makes me want to puke. Jessica pretended to spit violently. That harsh reaction made the depth of her pain very clear. Let's stop talking about this. All this about grandfather's hidden gold, property and inheritance is our parents' problem, not ours. I agree. At the very least, I think children have a duty to be considerate and stay out of their parents' way when they're talking together. Tch, sounds pretty boring. Everyone knows the phrase, adults are filthy. Really? I don't. That's a phrase. Maybe in Japanese. But we had now seen that for ourselves, and that really did give us a considerable shock. George Annika was now pretty much an adult, and I'd already been disillusioned with my dad, so the shock wasn't that big for us. But Jessica seemed to be taking it hard. Apparently she'd received a bigger blow than I thought. She always talks badly about her parents, but it looks like she hadn't changed at all on the inside. Even now, she's still a pure-hearted, delicate person who can't doubt others. I'm sure she respected her parents as much as anyone else does. And then her parents started raging about, going, money, money, inheritance, inheritance, my money, right in front of all of the other parents and the children. It's no surprise she received such a shock from hearing that. Jessica-chan, please don't start hating your mother and father. I won't ask you to understand them, but at least don't hate them. I get it, just leave me alone for a bit. 6 years ago, I would have kept taunting Jessica even after she got all ejected. But I guess I really have grown over the last 6 years. I realized it'd be better to leave Jessica alone right now. Jessica suddenly looked away sulkily and left the parlor. She probably wanted to be alone for a while. I could do nothing but wordlessly watch her back as she left. Come to think of it, I wonder where Maria-chan went. Maybe to Beatrice, her new best friend. She's probably pouting in front of the portrait. Maria truly looked up to witches, and she'd expected that coming in direct contact with Beatrice and receiving the letter as proof would surprise everyone and make them happy. However, the adults had doubted its authenticity, thoroughly bombarding Maria with questions and refusing to accept her story. Even for me, it wasn't hard to imagine how much that must have hurt Maria. We couldn't speak to Maria or Jessica. In the end, George, Aniki, and I just abandoned ourselves to the sound of the falling rain and the dark night. I wonder what's happening with that typhoon. Oh, I hear a clock. Maybe there's something about it on the news. George Aniki started walking over to the corner of the parlor where the television was. He hadn't called me over, and I really couldn't have cared less whether the typhoon was on the sea now. So, without going over to the television, I loitered around the window. The wind hasn't picked up that much here, but I wonder if it's horrible over the sea. I did hear about a severe storm warning on the weather report. Oh, curious-san. I take it those big talks between the adults are going smoothly, yeah? She seemed to catch the sarcasm. Curious-san shrugged. I wonder if that stomachache of a discussion will continue all night. It's not going to be fun. Well then, please enjoy playing vultures to grandfather's property as much as you'd like. I feel sick. I'll agree with you on that. If I could just slip away like you, I'd do it. Unfortunately, I can't. Even if I'm not allowed to speak, we spouses have it pretty rough, too. Kiryu-san took a deep breath, smiling bitterly. That's right. They probably wouldn't let Kiryu-san speak, since she only married into the family. Still, as Dad's partner, she's had no choice but to stay by his side and support him. She's probably had to bear the full brunt of this mental pressure much more than me. I wasn't going to apologize, but realizing that I'd spoken too harshly, I cut the sarcasm for the time being. So how does it look? Are they still stuck on the topic of the mysterious witch, Beatrice? More or less. Those four siblings are always piling up secret agreements when they come together to discuss the division of grandfather's inheritance. They're saying that some unknown fifth person has appeared and is trying to make things even more complicated, and there's no way that'll make for a peaceful conversation. Just when you think they're snarling at each other, they'll set up a common front. Natsuhi-ne-san's not the only one getting headaches. On the one hand, they all want a larger portion than the other siblings, so they're all rivals. But on the other hand, they don't want 1 yen to be snatched up by anyone other than the siblings, so they're also all allies. I hadn't been told the details, but the siblings were apparently discussing how to protect their shares under various situations. Setting up ceasefire agreements and rules to prevent anyone from getting an unfair advantage, even preparing to resort to legal action if absolutely necessary. That they would go this far to preserve their shares was so beyond disgusting that you just had to acknowledge their resilience. So basically, Beatrice is like an assassin sent by grandfather. He probably wanted to scare the hell out of his children for talking about the inheritance without him. Who is this Beatrice, I wonder? If everything she claims is true, then she's a mystery figure that no one knew about until today. And she also knows about grandfather's hidden gold. On top of that, she was even entrusted with the head's ring. She must truly have been trusted by him. Well, obviously I don't think she's a witch riding around on a broom, but there's no doubt she's a mysterious person who's earned the right to be called a witch. If only Maria-chan would go into more detail about that. Everyone's been smothering her, even though she's just a little girl. They really scared her, and some things they might have asked now can't be asked. I wonder if those people have ever even read The North Wind and the Sun. What the hell is that? What we do know is that Maria received a letter from a person who took the name Beatrice. She sure is shy for a mysterious person, and trusting Maria with a letter and hiding away even now, when she could have just appeared and talked to us directly. Huh. Hey Batla-kun, do you really think a person called Beatrice actually exists? Who knows? Doesn't it really seem like a false name? Like she's grandfather's representative, so she was given permission to take the name of the witch from his delusions? No, that's not what I meant. Okay, hello, scary music. Right now, there's a total of 18 people here on Rokkenjima. Do you think there's a 19th person? Are there really a full 18 people on this island right now? Well, I mean, we can check. Let's see. No, not the Japanese. Oh, Aaron, you didn't even have to send me the Japanese text. Now that I see, you can just check it right here. Anyway. North Wind and the Sun seems to be a story that all Japanese people have read, but no one from the West. Oh, it's like the damn Bluebird story, Metalink's Bluebird. From Zero Escape. I mean, not written by Zero Escape, but it gets mentioned in Zero Escape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it is 18. I'm gonna save it. I don't even know why, but I feel like saving it. Wondering about that, I began counting on my fingers, and it really did come out that many. Yeah, I did the same thing just now. Do I think that a 19th person exists? What exactly do you mean? Just what I said. The person who lent Maria that umbrella supposedly wasn't one of us 18. So isn't it natural to assume that a 19th person exists, and that this person lent Maria the umbrella? Well, yeah, it sure looks that way. Then where exactly is this person now? At the very least, she must have been on the island when it started raining. And ever since that time, the weather has grown progressively worse, so taking a boat out would be pretty much impossible. It's one of Aesop's fables, okay? In that case, that person must still be on the island, hiding from the rain somewhere. Do we have an attic here? Maybe she's there. And without any of us spotting her. Oh, 1 second, I hear somebody crying. True, we've all been randomly prowling around all over the mansion and the guest house, but no one has bumped into a 19th person. But this island is huge. There might be other places to take shelter from the rain other than the mansion and the guest house. At about this time, I began to realize what direction Kiryu-san's suspicions were taking us in. Kiryu-san was denying that a 19th person existed. Oh, are we playing that game? Like in Zero Escape, where it's like, there's no 10th person, Zero is one of us? Beatrice was one of us 18. In other words, she thought someone we knew well was tricking us. If Beatrice is who she claims, she would surely be the most honored of guests. The most honored of confidants, trusted by grandfather. There's no way grandfather wouldn't give that kind of person a warm reception. She would surely have been ushered into the mansion. However, we haven't seen anyone like that. Wait a sec, isn't this line of reasoning a bit too hasty? Sure, no one spotted this person, but that doesn't mean you can deny the possibility that a 19th person exists, right? Maybe for some reason they landed on the island stealthily and have been hiding ever since. It's what they call a devil's proof. It's easy to prove that something exists. If this Beatrice appears in front of us all and says hi, then it's settled. But it's impossible to prove that there's no 19th person. Yes, Bettler-kun, your way of reasoning isn't bad. In our current situation, there isn't enough information to either accept or deny that a 19th person exists. No. But if you spin the chessboard around and think that way, we can deny the existence of a 19th person with near certainty. Spin the chessboard around was one of Kiryu-san's favorite phrases. I've been influenced by those words and use them myself from time to time. When you get stuck trying to find a move in chess or shogi, then by spinning the board around and looking at everything from your opponent's standpoint, you can often see a strategy that'll give you the upper hand. It means turning things around and putting yourself in your opponent's shoes. Is this Gyakuten Saiban now? You see, let's say that a 19th person called Beatrice actually exists. That person must have managed, without being seen by anyone, to stealthily arrive on this island and remain hidden ever since. Maybe they had some reason, okay? In that case, why did they go to all of the trouble of appearing before Maria and handing her the letter? It really was a contradiction. If they had some reason for hiding themselves, then they should have stayed hidden the whole time. But even so, they had appeared openly in front of Maria. Time for the updated aRdW report. Exactly. Then, wait, Maria said it herself. She said the witch made her a messenger. Maybe that's because Maria was the youngest and looked the most obedient. Why would they need a messenger? If they just wanted a letter delivered to the family conference, they could have mailed it. If they mailed it to each of the 4 siblings, no one would be able to ignore it. There was no need for this person to carry it themselves and secretly deliver it by hand. Yeah, that does sound pretty weird. In the first place, if Beatrice existed and wanted to make her presence known to everyone, then she could have just openly presented herself to all of us. Yeah, maybe there's a reason why she can't, who knows? Didn't it... wait a second. Yeah, could I please press escape? Thank you. Where's the tips? Yeah, on the 9th twilight the witch shall revive. So, going by that, it means the witch is not alive yet. If we can follow this entire riddle here, it says the witch shall revive on the 9th twilight, so that would mean that she's not alive yet. So what the hell? In the first place, if Beatrice existed and wanted to make her presence known to everyone, then she could have just openly presented herself to all of us. Despite that, she chose the vague method of appearing through a little girl called Maria-chan and only gave us a vague impression of who she was. Press original images. I need a webcam in Christian's home, so I can always do that when I see he has some food in his mouth, and then it's like, BAM! Now you choke on your food! Okay, back to this. That sounded meaner than it was supposed to. Contradiction. Let's go a little deeper, shall we? She appeared in front of Maria, trying to give us the impression that a 19th person existed, and yet she still hasn't appeared before us and is hiding somewhere at this very moment. Think about those contradictions. You've got to keep these things in mind when you spin the chessboard around. Yeah, but at the very least, it would have been a person who was insanely good at cosplaying Beatrice, because Maria seems to be absolutely convinced that it was Beatrice. And Maria definitely knows what Beatrice looks like. Maybe it was a grandfather dressed like Beatrice. That is a thought I didn't ever want to have in my head. Oh god, the mental image. In short, if a person wants to leave us with the impression that Beatrice exists as the 19th person, what might their goal be? If this person wanted to hide, then they wouldn't have made their presence known. And if they wanted to show themselves, they wouldn't have used the roundabout approach of entrusting someone with a letter. Which means, it's simple. Beatrice is one of the 18 people. That's why they want to create the illusion that there are more than 18 people. The 19th person was revealed so spectacularly. If someone were to profit from this, it wouldn't be some 19th person hiding. It'd be one of the original 18 people. Of course, this reasoning is full of holes. If you turn over even a few of its premises, it'll simply fall apart. But I'm almost completely certain it's correct. This is starting to feel pretty creepy. Someone lent Maria the umbrella and handed her the letter. Supposedly none of the 18 did this. And yet Beatrice was hidden among those 18. What was this person planning, hiding their true form and pretending to be Beatrice? I suspected it might have been Maria-chan play acting, but the contents of the message were extremely complicated and it's hard to imagine Maria-chan writing that herself. However, I can't deny the possibility that Maria-chan is working together with someone. Wait a sec, Maria's a 9-year-old kid, right? What could she possibly be planning and with whom? And what about her straightforward, overly honest, obedient nature? Yes, I also understand what kind of a person Maria-chan is, but that's exactly why I think it's possible. That girl is a dreamer who can't help but look up to and blindly accept the existence of witches. So if a person appeared in front of her and claimed to be the witch Beatrice, Maria-chan would happily swallow it up, I think. So you're saying that if someone disguised themselves by wearing that fancy dress from the portrait, tricking Maria wouldn't be that hard? Of course, with that reasoning, all of us women would become the primary suspects. So it's you. Anyway, who did Maria-chan encounter? Learning the details of that question would be the best key to solving this riddle. But this key has been firmly locked away inside Maria-chan's heart. Everyone denied the existence of the witch without listening to her, barraging her too much with questions about who Beatrice actually was. She probably won't open her heart to the adults now. In the dim hall, in front of the portrait of Beatrice, Maria was sobbing.
No one believes I met Beatrice. Even though I showed them the letter Beatrice gave, they still don't believe.
I just noticed that on Twitch, Umineko is categorized as adventure, horror, and German. What the hell? What is German doing there? Anyway, Maria-chan is holding the key to whether Beatrice is one of the 18 people or a 19th person. Maria is stubborn, right? When that girl gets angry, it's pretty hard to make her feel better. Betlakun, I think a kid like you would be better at cheering her up than an adult like me. We need George for that. After she's feeling better, try asking. I know you don't care about all this back and forth about the inheritance, but don't you find this Western Mansion mystery situation exciting? Who in the world is this person who gave Maria-chan the letter? It makes your intellectual curiosity ache. You're actually pretty tough considering you're still excited after being dragged through that endless money talk. Adults can be pretty amazing. I shrugged exasperatedly, but I did notice something. Kiria noticed how dejected I was after overhearing our parents' turbulent discussion, and was probably trying to clear the air. At the very least, I had recovered enough to voice my complaints. She wasn't my real mother, so I've never felt like calling her mom, but it did make me think she's a real adult.
Hey Brad, so this is where you were. Kira, you really took your time fixing your makeup, didn't you? Think I'll make a habit of going out to touch up my makeup too.
What, you have makeup? I hope not. I'm sorry, a woman's makeup takes a long time. So, how has the discussion been without me? I'm sure everything was all peaceful and harmonious. Kiria-san poked the weak spot under my arm with her elbow.
We decided to take a break to cool our heads a little. Looks like we'll be at it all night. Makes me want to cry.
His way of talking hadn't changed, but he couldn't completely hide his fatigue. I couldn't say I was sympathetic, but he looked pitiful compared to his normal, energetic self.
Still, that wine is just awful. I really don't want to go back to the guest house. It looks like Natsuhine-san set things up so we could spend the night here in the mansion. What'll we do?
We don't need to decide until you're done, right? If you run so low on energy that you can't return to our room, then we can take them up on their offer.
You're right. We can think about it later. What about you, Butler?
If I stayed, I'd just get in the way. I'll be nice and go back over there.
I see. Will you go back soon?
I don't know. It'd be lonely to head back by myself. I'll gather all the kids and we'll head out.
Okay, you go do that. Also, Butler, you won't be going to sleep that easily tonight, right?
Yeah, I'll probably be up talking with the cousins. Sounds like we'll be up all night. Is there a problem with that?
I see. If you're still awake when the adults' discussion is over, I want to have a little talk as a family.
Oh, do you? Oh, what? That doesn't sound like you. Apparently, Kiria-san was thinking the same thing. What are you talking about? She asked him in a small voice. It looked like Kiria-san didn't have a clue what Dad meant either.
I also want to talk to you about it, Kiria. I'll tell you later, so don't ask now. Please.
He's gonna fucking die, isn't he? Because now he's gonna set it up for some secret he wants to tell us or something, and then he never gets to tell it because he dies. I don't know anyone who neglects the concept of family as much as this old bastard. And now he's saying we're gonna have a talk as a family? Both Kiria-san and I couldn't help but get wide-eyed.
Don't look so terrified. I'm the one who should be terrified. After all.
At that point, he swallowed his words for an instant. Even though putting on airs of importance wasn't much like my dad. You're freaking me out, Dad. Everyone in our family is gathered here now, right? Don't make a big deal out of it and spit it out.
Tonight, I will probably be killed.
Oh, what? I was just saying that, well, not as a joke, but I wasn't also entirely certain. But now he just says it, okay. There was a huge crash of thunder. Must have been really close. Dad's expression, brightly illuminated by the lightning, was burned into my eyes. Dad's face, which always looked so sure of itself and which always wore a taunting expression, was strangely frail in a way I couldn't really explain. It was so worn out that he looked like a different person. What? What are you talking about? That doesn't sound like you. I agree. What happened? You look so timid all of a sudden. It's not like you.
I'm gonna go fix my makeup too. Don't follow me.
Dad turned away, weakly. After that, only Kiria and I were left, still wide-eyed. What did he say? Tonight he'll be killed? You don't think that mysterious letter scared him, do you? He's been watching too many serial murder movies. Kiria-san didn't answer my light-hearted words and continued to stare at my dad's disappearing back. Batlakun, when you told Rudolf-san to spill the beans right away, He left without telling us anything. Even though he said he had something to say to both of us, he didn't answer you. Why? Spin the chessboard around. What do you see? Well, when he said he wanted to talk, but then couldn't, that's a contradiction. What, can you see something by looking from Dad's perspective? Yes, I can see something. He wants to talk about something, however he doesn't have the courage to bring it up. So he actually means chase after me, talk to me, and ask me about it yourself. By saying don't follow me, he actually means the opposite. He actually means follow me and force me to answer. Seriously, what a spoiled brat.
What? Can you really call that reasoning? That's ridiculous.
Can great private and police detectives deduce the emotions and feelings between men and women? They can't, right? Figuring out the feelings of the opposite sex is an even more advanced art than exposing the tricks in difficult crime cases. If you ask me, romance novels have much deeper mysteries than masterpiece mystery novels.
I see. Is that how it is?
I'll stand alongside that spoiled brat. He normally loves to bluff, but tonight he's completely tired out from that heated discussion. He probably wants someone to lean on at the moment, and responding to that need is the role of his partner.
Huh. Sounds passionate.
Then I'll leave that old bastard in your hands. Yes, leave it to me.
I called out to Kiryu-san's departing back.
Huh? What?
I wanted to say thanks. Thanks to you, my gloomy mood has cleared up a lot.
That's good. Communication is important.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't get killed, but she does. Wouldn't that be cool as well? After answering with a wink, Kiryu-san followed after Dad. And then she murdered him.
Natsuhi could be found in a dimly lit hallway. Now and then the thunder would crash, but this had no effect on her expression. She looked completely worn out. The discussion that had just taken place between the relatives in the dining hall was repeating itself inside Natsuhi's mind. Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, all of the inheritance and property of the Ushiromiya family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Klaus, as the oldest brother, had to succeed the family head. Originally, the other siblings had absolutely no chance to inherit the headship. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept it. There was no need to play some clumsy detective game. Natsuhi knew that the so-called 19th person, Beatrice, couldn't exist. Naturally, Beatrice was nothing more than a fictional character used to pass a message that Kinzo had written himself. As proof, Kinzo had remained stubbornly neutral as to the letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims that he shouldn't be able to ignore, that he had given up the head's ring. In short, Kinzo had wordlessly admitted that the letter held his own message. But he has thrown the ring out of the window. Most likely, one of the servants had given Maria the letter. Kinzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress from the portrait would be prepared, and someone, probably Shannon, would be made to wear it and deliver the letter and the umbrella. By doing that, he could make it seem like the witch from the portrait actually existed. Now, if anything, that alone was proof that Kinzo was behind all this. In that case, it was the same as Kinzo trying to butt in on the siblings' private discussion. Then Kinzo, by announcing that he'd give everything to the person who solved the riddle, could weaken Klaus's overwhelming advantage. Now it was certain. Kinzo had eavesdropped on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier that day. So he had known how Klaus had staved off the attack by the other three, and to make the scales of the battle go back into balance, he had sent out this strange letter which benefited Klaus's rivals. He was trying to push this crazy theory so that Rosa, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age, would join with Eva and Rudolf. Then, with a 3-1 advantage, they would be able to overwhelm Klaus yet again and make their ridiculous theories get accepted by force. And by doing that, he gave them the power to resettle what had once been a nearly decided conflict. They had now started repeatedly pressing Klaus to pay them a large amount of money. Using the condition that all of the siblings would guarantee Klaus's position as the successor, talk about advance payments was being brought up again despite having been rejected once. Of course, even without the story about the hidden gold, the Ushiromiya family's store of wealth was vast. That store of wealth alone was more than enough. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever along with Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy. Therefore, even if they weren't that interested in the gold itself, Kinzo had managed to instill the lifelong fear that, on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the headship. And this kind of Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage of by someone sooner or later. The only person with this fatal weakness was the successor of Klaus. The other siblings had they had been told by Kinzo about something that only Klaus could lose, and they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsuhi, as Klaus's only ally in his painful position and as his wife, wanted to fight alongside him. She kept trying to explain to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce and that there was no need for him to compromise. Klaus had always told Natsuhi, he had told all of the siblings, he always said that the hidden gold was nothing more than an illusion created by Kinzo. Therefore, Natsuhi had believed it as his wife and had supported her husband on that foundation. Even so, Natsuhi's words didn't reach Klaus. Even though Natsuhi had fought so hard and had lent all of her strength, he continued to fight by himself and was trying to compromise with the other 3 siblings. Natsuhi sadly and weakly wondered why she could not be of use to him, then started getting angry. It had happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsuhi had flared up against Klaus. Enraged, she had asked why she could not be useful to him. He had then told her that he wanted to talk about something and invited her into a room that she was normally not allowed to enter. That room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it had given her an uncomfortable feeling. What, is it Kinzo's room? No, can't be.
There's no need for you to worry about anything said by those 3, or even the suspicious person who calls herself Beatrice. After all, the gold is just a ruse created by Father. There's no way something like that could be found.
The men's toilet.
Your position as the successor is a solid fact. What are you afraid of?
Klaus removed the padlock on the door. He then motioned for Natsuhi to enter. Enter.
What is this?
There's something I want you to see. I've never shown you this before. And now it's the fucking gold. Wouldn't that be something? Natsuhi timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She searched for a switch to turn on the lights, but since this was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was. Klaus entered behind her, pushing her in, and when he closed the door before turning on the lights, the two were swallowed up by the darkness. Only the sound of Klaus locking the door rang out through the dark.
What are you doing? The lights.
I'm turning them on now. Wait.
Just as he said, when Klaus pushed the switch on the wall, a flickering light turned on and lit up the room. That is...
Natsuhi had her breath taken away. The room had no windows, and at a glance it appeared to be empty. In the middle of the room a small round table had been set, and the lights brightened only that table as if it were the leading part in a play. On top of the table, a red tablecloth of elaborate design had been set out, covered with dust, and on top of that, something about the size of a grown man's arm had been set down. That something took Natsuhi's breath away. Oh shit. It's a gold ingot of incredible purity. Without this, no one would have believed in the legend of the gold. It was an ingot of solid gold. Even in the faint light, it sparkled with a noble and dignified glint. This is not a proper ingot. I don't even know whether it was cast inside or outside the country. It took a high level of skill to make the purest of solid gold ingots, and in order to verify their purity, it was standard to have the original foundry and the name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. However, this ingot did not have that kind of seal. This mysterious gold bar had come from an unknown foundry. Look here. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a bar of gold. Natsuhi, following Klaus's words, timidly approached the ingot. Right there. Klaus pointed at the surface of the ingot. Natsuhi concentrated on that section. Right there was the thin imprint of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsuhi's breath was taken away once again. That's right. This is the legendary ingot that Father said he received from the witch that the president of Murderso witnessed and was allowed to select at random to take bath with him. That gained the trust of the figures in the business world. I had to use all possible means to find it. I found it before the other siblings could.
How could... Then, The legend of Father's gold is...
It actually exists. The gold that Ushiromiya Kinzo received from Beatrice actually exists.
Impossible. So it really does exist.
Natsuhi was shocked. Klaus had always said that Kinzo's gold was just a fabrication, so she had believed it as his wife. However, the reality was different. Since he held definite proof, he had been more certain than any of the other siblings that the legend of the gold was true. Because of this, Klaus was deeply frightened at the possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold he'd failed to find, costing him everything. But to Natsuhi, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. She had thought that, as Klaus's wife, she should be his closest confidant, which was why she had selflessly supported him. And yet, he had hid this fact from her until today. Why?
Have I been so undeserving of your trust?
That has never been my intention. There was simply no need to tell you.
Is that all a wife means to you?
Calm down. Becoming passionate easily is one of your bad habits.
You're the one who's making me like that, aren't you? I've been supporting you as a wife ever since I married into this family. For your sake, I threw away the family I was born into, and I've been offering up my heart and my body to serve you. And in return, this is what I get. How could you?
Klaus grimaced, looking annoyed. His expression effectively communicated how much he disliked this part of Natsuhi, even if he didn't say it out loud.
It doesn't look like I will be of any use to you anymore.
That's fine.
Oh, was eine nette Antwort.
I can resolve the troubles with the siblings by myself. I don't need your help.
That's wrong. This is the Oshiromiya family's problem. It's true that I am not permitted to wear the family crest on my body, but I am still your wife. Even so, are you saying I'm not capable of helping you? Are you?
I especially wouldn't want to risk getting you involved. It would probably make your headaches even worse than they are now. Take a rest for today. The siblings will deal with the siblings' problems. It has nothing to do with you. That is all.
A dull headache tormented Natsuhi. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what scents she burned, it wouldn't heal. In fact, simply wandering alone through the dark corridors and listening to the sound of the rain seemed to be a better cure.
I may be Natsuhi, but I was never Ushiromiya Natsuhi. I have been despised and treated as a borrowed womb, and insulted when I couldn't even fill that role. Even so, I have tried to properly perform my duties as a wife, but now, even my husband has rejected me. I've done my best raising my daughter as if it were the last job left to me. However, I've had no release for my anger and sadness, and they have caused me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I've been excessively strict in Jessica's education, she dislikes me thoroughly. She despises me for having no interest in anything but grades. There's no longer anything I can do for the Ushiromiya family. No, it's no good. Despite it all, I must help my husband and beat back the schemes of the other greedy siblings. The family head won't be around much longer. Eventually Klaus will succeed the head, and the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will become the next head, but it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor whom everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Ushiromiya family. In the days to come, that greedy Ushiromiya Eva will probably be plotting to find some fault with the main family, and if all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged down from the succession with George set up in her place. It is regrettable, but George is a man, and even more, has matured as a person. Compared to Jessica, who is right in the middle of her rebellious period and whose grades are slightly below average, it can be seen at a glance who is more fit to succeed the head. So in order to secure Jessica's position, I need to turn her into an excellent person. After doing that, I want to find her an excellent husband worthy of the excellent person she will have become. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her through all of life's joys and sorrows. Was Natsuhi trying to entrust her daughter with fulfilling some desire of her own? Natsuhi thought back to the days when she had no choice but to marry into the Ushiromiya family because of that unavoidable fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. She had consciously forgotten it and had actively attended to the life she'd been given as Ushiromiya Natsuhi. And in so doing, she had built up a new life. But just now,
It felt like all of that had been casually rejected.
How should I think as I live my life? I do not know.
Natsui helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, which was cool thanks to the raindrops beating against it, felt somehow refreshing. Even though it should have been emotionless, right then it seemed to be the only thing that could understand Natsui. At that point, even if someone had appeared, Natsui didn't intend to pay any attention to them. But she did pay attention, because it was her beloved daughter.
Oh, it's you, Mom. What the heck are you doing in a place like this? Thought you were a ghost.
Just like always, her words were rough, not at all like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsuhi's throat. However, the strength gave out and they didn't escape her lips.
Jessica, forgive me, but my headache is awful. Please leave me be. I see.
Jessica was seeing her mother in a position of feebleness for the first time, so she was considerably disconcerted. Until just now, she'd been filled with contempt for all of the parents, including her mother. But now, those feelings had been completely swept away. Her mother's utterly exhausted face had wiped them all out. In its place, the words George had told her floated back up in her mind. Our parents are doing their best in their own way, and because their families are counting on them, they can't afford to keep everything pleasant and have a heavy responsibility to fight. Maybe her mother had been standing around in this dimly lit hallway because no one had tried to understand that part of her. Jessica hated her mother, so she had no intention of speaking kindly to Natsuhi just because she was looking a bit frail. So when she attempted to speak kindly to her mother anyway, she had to clench her fists and gather up the words from deep in her heart.
It sounds like you've really got your hands full with that meeting thing. It has nothing to do with you. Please go somewhere else. Is your headache bad? Should I go get some medicine? You don't have to trouble yourself. Please leave me alone.
Natsuhi wasn't being cold. She just wanted her daughter to go far away so that she wouldn't have to bump against Natsuhi's own short temper. But there was no chance that Jessica would realize this.
Okay.
Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Seeing that expression, Natsuhi recognized the kindness that Jessica was trying to muster. She gave her head a small shake to drive away her own unkind feelings.
Then I'll leave. I'll be with the other cousins so I don't get in the way of the adults. See you later.
Wait there. She called Jessica, who was trying to leave and looked lonely, to a stop.
What? Thank you for being so considerate. It isn't good of me to go to sleep and leave you alone.
Don't talk like that, you'll bring bad luck.
I've made you worried, but I'm okay now. I will go.
If I let my daughter see me this feeble any longer, I'll only make her feel more uneasy. With that thought in mind, Natsuhi left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time Jessica called out to her mother's back. Natsuhi stopped and turned around, asking what business Jessica had with her, but Jessica herself didn't know why she'd stopped her mother. And for a while she smiled wryly, muttering to herself as she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket when her hand touched something and she took it out.
Hey Mom, I was given a charm today. What was it, a charm against magic? I'm pretty sure that you were supposed to hang it from your doorknob, I think. I forgot. There's no point in me having it, so I'll let you take it.
It was the scorpion charm that Maria had given her on the beach. Although she'd heard of its various effects from Maria, Jessica's mind had gone blank and she was just barely able to say even that much. Jessica, thinking that her mother probably wouldn't accept it anyway, immediately drew back the hand she had stuck out, grasping the charm. So when Natsuhi came back to take it, she was extremely shocked.
What is this? Some kind of prize toy?
Well, I think it's something like that. I guess you wouldn't really expect a charm that looks like a toy to do anything. But her mother took the charm from where she grasped it in her hand.
Thank you. I'll take good care of it. Sometime soon, in exchange, why don't I give you a charm that was important to me when I was a child?
It's not like that's why I gave it to you.
But, well, if you really say so, then I will rest for now. My headache is awful. Try not to stay up too late.
Yeah, we're just gonna play some Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
Natsuhi put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall.